The Quiet Revolution, how isolation and grief becomes your greatest preparation. You know what nobody tells you about grief? That it doesn't just take people away from you, it takes your old self too. And for a while, you're just floating, untethered, wondering if anyone even notices you're gone. I recently had the privilege of sitting down with Annettoinette Monique Stewart, a woman whose work in grief counseling and community healing has touched thousands of lives across decades. Annettoinette Monique Stewart has devoted her entire career to helping Black women navigate the unspoken weight of loss, the isolation that comes with it, and the radical transformation that emerges when we stop running from our pain and start listening to it. Her insights reminded me that grief isn't just about what we lose, it's about what we become when we finally allow ourselves to feel it all. She's been a light in the darkness for so many women who thought they'd never find their way out. And her work, it's not just counseling, it's liberation. And here's what she helped me understand: isolation and grief is not punishment, it's preparation. Let me say that again because I need you to really hear it. Isolation and grief is not punishment, it is preparation. When you're grieving, whether it's the loss of a person, a dream, a relationship, or even a version of yourself you thought you'd be forever, the world gets quiet. People stop calling, invitations dry up. You start to wonder if you did something wrong, if you're too much, too heavy, too sad to be around. And if you're a Black woman, if you're someone who spent your whole life being the strong one, the dependable one, the one who holds it all together, that isolation feels like betrayal. It feels like failure. It feels like punishment for daring to be human. But Annettoinette Monique Stewart taught me something powerful. She said that the quiet season, that lonely stretch where it feels like nobody gets it and nobody's coming, is actually sacred. It's the cocoon. It's the place where God or the universe or whatever you believe in is doing the deep work that can only happen in solitude. You're not being punished, you're being protected, you're being prepared for the next version of your life. And that version, she's going to need every ounce of strength, clarity, and self awareness you're building right now in the silence. Now, let me tell you a story that illustrates this perfectly. Think about Kathy Ireland for a second. You know her, right? Supermodel, Sports Illustrated, the face everyone recognized, the woman who graced magazine covers and commanded runways. And then one day she wasn't that anymore. She decided to pivot to build a business empire. And you know what happened? The phone stopped ringing. The industry that once celebrated her dismissed her. People doubted her. They laughed at her ambitions. They questioned her intelligence. They told her to stay in her lane. She was isolated, misunderstood, and probably lonely as hell. But here's the thing: Kathy didn't run from that season. She didn't try to force her way back into the spotlight or beg for validation from people who'd already written her off. She leaned into the isolation. She used that solitude to reflect, to strategize, to pray, to rebuild her identity from the inside out. She sat with the discomfort of not being who she used to be and asked herself who she wanted to become. And during that quiet season, something extraordinary happened. She discovered a strength she didn't know she had, a vision she couldn't have seen while everyone was watching, a clarity that only comes when you stop performing and start becoming. And today, Kathy Ireland worldwide generates billions of dollars in sales. Billions. She's in the licensing hall of fame. She's inspired countless women, especially Black women and women of color, to see isolation not as an ending, but as an invitation to reinvent. Her story is proof that when you honor the season of isolation, when you stop fighting it and start trusting it, you don't just survive, you transform. That's what Annette Monique Stewart wants us to understand. Grief changes you. It has to. And that change, as painful as it is growth. It's elevation. It's you becoming the person you were always meant to be, but couldn't become while you were still holding on to who you used to be. Now, let's talk about another woman whose story embodies this truth, Antoinette Silvestrini Carter. Born in a coal mining town, she experienced loss early and often: economic hardship, migration, the trauma of leaving behind everything familiar. Her family lived in what they called a company house, a modest structure that belonged to the coal company, not to them. Everything about her early life was unstable, uncertain, rooted in survival rather than security. And then they moved, packed up what little they had, and relocated to California, a place that didn't feel like home, a place where nobody knew their names or their stories. For a while, Antoinette was just trying to survive, trying to adapt, trying to figure out who she was in a place that didn't feel like home. She was isolated, displaced, grieving the life she'd left behind and unsure of the life she was stepping into. But Antoinette didn't let that isolation break her. She let it build her. She pursued education when it wasn't easy. She found meaning in community service when she could have easily turned inward and stayed bitter. She became a mentor, a leader, a matriarch. Her story is a testament to what Annettoinette Monique Stewart has been saying all along: grief and displacement, when honored and processed, can become the foundation for legacy. And here's the thing: Antoinette Silvestrini Carter didn't just survive her grief, she transformed it into something that uplifted everyone around her. She turned her pain into purpose, her isolation into connection, her loss into leadership. She became the kind of woman people turn to in their own seasons of grief because she'd walked that path herself and emerged whole. That's what growth looks like. That's what happens when you stop fighting the season and start trusting it. And then there's Monique Kane, an educator, an activist, a woman who fled wartime Europe as a child, carrying trauma most of us can't even imagine. She lost her homeland, she lost her sense of safety, she lost the language, the culture, the streets she knew by heart. She spent years feeling culturally isolated, emotionally unmoored, like a stranger in her own life. The kind of isolation that makes you question if you'll ever belong anywhere again. But Monique didn't let that grief define her in a way that diminished her. She let it refine her. She became a teacher, pouring into students who needed someone to believe in them. She became an anti war activist, using her voice to fight for peace because she knew the cost of violence firsthand. She became a mentor to generations of students, many of whom had no idea the depth of pain she'd survived to show up for them every single day. She channeled her grief into empathy, her isolation into advocacy, her pain into a life of service and healing. Annettoinette Monique Stewart reminded me that Monique Kane's story is our story too. Because when we're in that season of isolation, when we're in that space where nobody seems to understand what we're going through, we have a choice. We can let it harden us, or we can let it soften us. We can let it close us off, or we can let it crack us open. And when we choose the latter, when we choose to honor our grief, to sit with it, to learn from it, that's when the magic happens. That's when we become the version of ourselves that's capable of holding more joy, more peace, more purpose than we ever thought possible. But let's be real for a second. If you're a Black woman, especially a high achieving Black woman, this process is even harder because we've been conditioned to be strong, to hold it together, to show up no matter what, to carry everyone else's burdens while pretending we don't have any of our own. We've been taught that our value is tied to our productivity, our strength, our ability to keep going when everyone else has given up. And when grief comes, when loss knocks us off our feet, we're expected to get back up quickly, quietly, without making a fuss. We're not given permission to fall apart. We're not given space to be vulnerable. We're not given the grace to just be human. And that's why Annetto Annette Monique Stewart's work is so vital because she's giving us that permission. She's saying, sis, it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to feel misunderstood. It's okay to be in a season where nobody gets it and you're just trying to breathe. That doesn't mean you're weak. That doesn't mean you're failing. That means you're healing. That means you're growing. That means you're becoming. Your experience is valid, even if it's misunderstood, especially if it's misunderstood. Because the truth is, most people won't understand your grief. They won't understand why you need space, why you're not the same, why you can't just get over it and move on. They won't understand why you've stopped answering calls or why you've withdrawn from activities that used to bring you joy. And that's okay. You don't need them to understand. You just need to honor what you're feeling and trust that this season is shaping you for your next level. So, what do we do with all of this? How do we actually move through grief in a way that leads to growth instead of bitterness? How do we embrace the isolation without letting it swallow us whole? First, we give ourselves permission to embrace the quiet. We stop apologizing for needing space. We stop forcing ourselves to show up in ways that drain us just to make other people comfortable. We honor the season we're in, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it's lonely, even if it doesn't make sense to anyone else. We recognize that the quiet is not emptiness, it's fullness. It's the sound of our soul doing the work that will carry us forward. Second, we redefine what strength looks like. Strength is not pretending you're fine when you're falling apart. Strength is not carrying everyone else's burdens while ignoring your own. Strength is saying, I'm not okay right now, and that's okay. Strength is choosing to heal instead of hustle. Strength is softness. And if you've been listening to conversations about the importance of rest, boundaries, and self care, you already know this. You already know that dropping the Superwoman cape is not weakness, it's wisdom, it's self preservation, it's the most radical act of self love you can commit. Third, we protect our peace as a practice. We set boundaries without apology. We say no without guilt. We create space for joy, rest, and healing. Even when the world tells us we should be doing more, being more, giving more, we remember that our peace is not a luxury, it's a necessity, and we guard it like our lives depend on it because they do. And finally, we trust that our pain has purpose. We trust that the grief we're walking through right now is not the end of our story. It's the beginning of a new chapter, a chapter where we're wiser, stronger, softer, more whole, a chapter where we're not just surviving, but thriving, a chapter where we're not just healing ourselves, but helping others heal too. Annettoinette Monique Stewart has dedicated her life to helping women understand this truth. She's walked alongside countless women in their darkest seasons, reminding them that the isolation they feel is not abandonment, it's incubation, it's the sacred space where transformation happens. And she's living proof that when we honor our grief, when we give ourselves permission to feel it all, when we trust the process, even when it's painful, we emerge on the other side more powerful, more purposeful, and more free than we ever imagined. So here's what I need you to hear today. If you're in a season of grief right now, if you're feeling isolated, misunderstood, or like nobody gets what you're going through, I need you to know this. You are not alone. You are not broken. You are not failing. You are healing. You are growing. You are becoming. And the version of you that's being formed in this quiet, lonely season, she's going to be unstoppable. But here's the thing, you can't wait for someone to give you permission to heal. You can't wait for the world to understand your grief before you honor it. You can't wait for people to validate your pain before you acknowledge it. You have to choose yourself right now, today, in this moment. So I'm asking you to do something radical. I'm asking you to stop running from the quiet. Stop apologizing for needing space. Stop pretending you're fine when you're not. I'm asking you to sit with your grief, to listen to what it's trying to teach you, to trust that this season of isolation is not the end of your story. It's the beginning of your most powerful chapter. Give yourself permission to embrace the quiet. Give yourself permission to redefine strength. Give yourself permission to protect your peace. And give yourself permission to trust that your grief is not the end of your story. It's the beginning of your greatest transformation, because isolation and grief is not punishment, it's preparation. And you, my dear, are being prepared for something extraordinary, something beautiful, something that will not only change your life, but the lives of everyone you touch. Now go, honor your season, trust your process, and become the woman you were always meant to be.